I have a joke for you.
Go on.
Why don't gun laws in America ever go on vacation?
Why?
'Cause they're always getting reloaded.
So, today we're diving into a topic that always sparks some heated debates guns. Specifically, why it seems like the US will never fully ban guns. With all the news surrounding gun violence, the US government and citizens have yet to push through any large scale bans. Why is that? Well, we're going to break it down in a lighthearted, factual way to explore why this is such a complicated issue. Grab your popcorn and let's get into it. First things first, let's talk about the Second Amendment. This little nugget of history is often cited by gun rights advocates, and it's one of the main reasons why the US won't ban guns. The Second Amendment, written in 1791, states, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed." That's a mouthful, but the key point here is that it guarantees the right to bear arms. Now, back when this was written, muskets were the weapon of choice, definitely not the AR-15s and handguns we have today. But the fact remains that the Second Amendment is deeply ingrained in US culture, and many believe that to ban guns would be to trample on a fundamental right. Another reason the US won't ban guns is because of its history and identity. Guns are a part of American culture. Just look at the Wild West, the American Revolution, and let's be real, pretty much every John Wayne movie ever made. Throughout history, guns have symbolized self-reliance and personal freedom. From the moment the country was founded, the idea of individual rights has been at the core of the national ethos. Americans are often taught to value their freedom, and for many, that includes the freedom to own firearms. It's a part of the American dream, owning land, owning a home, and yes, owning a gun. It's like the ultimate symbol of personal liberty. Don't mess with my freedom, or my right to carry my trusty sidekick. Now, let's talk about politics. The US is incredibly divided on the issue of gun control, and this split is a huge reason why we won't see a nationwide gun ban anytime soon. On one side, we have those pushing for stricter gun control laws, citing rising gun violence and the need to reduce mass shootings. On the other side, you have those who are staunch defenders of the Second Amendment, arguing that more restrictions only hurt law-abiding citizens while doing little to stop criminals. These opposing views are deeply entrenched, and they often end up paralyzing meaningful change. In a country as divided as the US, well, finding common ground on something as controversial as guns is tricky. So instead of banning guns outright, politicians are more likely to debate small changes like background checks or red flag laws. Changes that may not feel like enough for one side and too much for the other. Speaking of politics, there's one more major reason why a nationwide gun ban is unlikely: the National Rifle Association, or the NRA. This organization has been an incredibly powerful political force in the US for decades. Speaking of politics, there's one more major reason why a nationwide gun ban is unlikely: the National Rifle Association, or the NRA. This organization has been an incredibly powerful political force in the US for decades. The NRA advocates for gun rights and lobbies fiercely against any restrictions on firearms. With millions of members and deep ties to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, the NRA can mobilize voters and influence policy decisions. This makes it extremely difficult to pass significant gun control legislation or even consider a ban. It's like trying to move a mountain with a spoon. The NRA's influence, combined with its grassroots support, means that banning guns would be like trying to tear down a brick wall built over a century of tradition. Another reason the US won't ban guns: many people see firearms as essential for personal protection. It's a security thing. If you're not relying on the police or your neighbors, then a gun is often viewed as the ultimate form of self-defense. For some, owning a gun is about feeling safe in an unpredictable world. They argue that without the right to own firearms, they'd be vulnerable to crime, or even to government overreach. It's not just about personal safety, it's about preparedness. Some people think, well, if a zombie apocalypse ever happens, I'll be the one who's ready. Let's not forget about the gun industry itself. Guns are big business in the US. We're talking multi-billion-dollar industry. From manufacturing to retail, hunting to sporting, guns are a big part of the American economy. Millions of jobs are tied to the gun industry, and while it's not the sole reason why we won't ban guns, it certainly plays a role. If the government were to impose a nationwide ban, It would have major economic consequences, including the loss of jobs, tax revenue, and business for retailers. That's a lot of people who would suddenly find themselves out of work, and no one wants to be the politician who starts that firestorm. Guns are more than just a political issue. They're woven into the fabric of American identity. Think about it. Cowboys, soldiers, hunters, and the whole Wild West vibe. Guns are tied to a narrative of freedom, rugged individualism, and self-sufficiency. Whether it's hunting for sport or practicing at the shooting range, guns have been a part of American life for centuries. For many, it's just a part of their family traditions and daily routines passed down from generation to generation. And when you try to take away something that's so deeply ingrained in a culture, it's not just about the guns themselves. It's about challenging a national identity. And that's not something many are ready to do. So, will the US ever ban guns? Probably not. At least not anytime soon. But that doesn't mean there's no room for change. We might see stronger regulations like universal background checks, mandatory gun registrations, or more state-level laws to address gun violence. Change is possible, but it will require compromise, time, and a willingness to find common ground. It won't happen overnight, but maybe small steps can be taken toward making the country a little safer without infringing on the rights of responsible gun owners. So, why won't the US ban guns? Well, it's a combination of history, culture, politics, economics, and the fierce belief in personal freedom. Guns are a part of the American fabric, and despite the debates, it seems like they'll be here for the long haul. But that doesn't mean we can't have sensible conversations about how to make the country safer while respecting everyone's rights. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts on this topic. Let's keep it respectful as always. Catch you in the next video.